big thing, and you got somebody else thinking that Jesus is going to come back in our lifetime, and we're part of a time clock that's been going for 13.8 billion years. So to me, it's like, probably not going to get it.
Well, yeah,
does that make any sense?
Yeah, and if you have a different opinion of the day to day, what would you say to Bull?
Well, I would relate to Noah and the flood as the argument against all those billions of years as far as the existence of Earth is concerned. And the actually Noah's flood dates back about 5,000.
So do you believe you believe that literally then?
Well, we went recently to a life-size replica of Noah's Ark. It's in Williamstown, Kentucky.
I did that too with a Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm. Well, they actually have a full-size ark that's drawn a lot of attention. And there's actually, I think, over 200 legends from various nations around the world of a global flood. There's billions of fossilizations that point to a global flood. In fact, there's around 5 million animals that are frozen in Siberia and Africa that also show the signs of a flood. And the actual literal ark has been discovered. There's been pictures that's been taken of it. There's one that come up in the early 1900s that actually saw it and chipped through the ice and got a piece of it. It's in a museum today. So the whole aspect as far
as... But who would authenticate that?
Well, there's a movie taken of it. You can actually see the movie.
There's a movie with King Kong too. You know what I mean?
But this is in... but they come right from the...
I'm not saying you're wrong. I mean, these are questions I'm sure you better ask. Just... it would be unfair of me not to give you the chance to explain it. So
so there's a lot of evidence that points to a global flood, which completely
there's no way out of that.
Yeah, it does away with the concept of
But do you believe that Noah, he was around 600 or 700 years old, and Noah and his 300 some odd year old sons collected 2 of each animal and got them on the ark. Most of them must have been indigenous to around, a mile or 2 from the ark. They didn't have cars and whatnot. They got them on there. You believe it literally, right?
I see no problem with that. Whenever we deal with God, we're dealing with things that's outside of man's norm.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah, and they tell us that when there's a catastrophe, that sometimes animals have more sense to save themselves from it than humans.
I believe that. Animals are nice guys.
So I think in all of this, that as the flood was being prepared to come upon the earth, I would assume that the animals were directed as well by God to come to that.
I got you. Yeah, and Bull, and I'd love to learn, David. I'd love talking with you about this. Yes, Bull, go right ahead for David.
Well, if you're a man and your daddy was a man and who you knew was your daddy was really your daddy, you have this identical Y chromosome. The identical Y chromosome. So if Noah was the true father of Ham, Shem, or whatever their names were, if he was their dad, they would all have the same Y chromosome. And if they were the only ones that survived the flood, we would all have the same Y chromosome. And we don't. There's 13 different Y chromosomes considered Jewish. There was really only one Jewish, but the other 12 guys got in and lied that I said the girls over the last 3,000 years. But there would only be one Y chromosome representing all of us. If what he's saying is true. What he is saying, it's simply not true.
That's interesting, Bull. What's your response to Bull on there, David?
Well, I guess I haven't really thought of that particular angle. But again,
it's not an angle.
Again, you go back to the Tower of Babel.
Right.
And again, you have the supernatural working of God that confounded the languages.
How convenient.
But again, if you believe that there is a God and believe that He's a God of miracles, there's no problem.
And that's what you believe. That's your faith, right?
Right. God is full of miracles.
Yeah, let's go back to the phone lines, and you'll be next with us here live with David Hellman, our guest here on News Talk 96.5, the Dan Reaves Show. You're on the air with David. Go.
Hi, Dan. Hi, David.
Yeah.
Hey there.
Yeah, I believe we've spoken before, David.
Okay.
You mentioned some prophecy in Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
So I must have told you about, and you also mentioned we're at the end of days, the last generation.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the book of Zohar, that book that Daniel said would be concealed and protected and hidden until the end of days, like us. Yeah, I got that book. It's available.
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, it's called the Book of Radiance, my friend, and it's the Zohar. It's like
Would you loan it to
Zohar.
Would you loan it to David? Would David, you want to read?
Yeah, I can give you some volumes, man. If you want, there's 23 volumes. There's like a book for each week of the year, and it has astrological significance, and it explains everything.
Yeah, I would say this. The Bible tells us in Revelation that the Bible is complete, and that anybody that would add or subtract to the word,
Like King James?
Well, King James is a translation from the original, so King James is not
Complete with-
necessarily
Complete with subtractions and additions to fit him personally, right? As I understand it, or am I wrong?
There are extra books sometimes that they try to work in that doesn't necessarily coincide with all the rest of the Bible.
Okay.
So I would question, I'm not familiar with what he's talking about, but I would question anything that
It's
adding like...
It's Kabbalah, man. It's the Ancient of Days. Like this book was written the same generation as the Bible was. That was when it was written down on paper. It was an oral tradition. They just spoke about it for thousands of years before that.
Okay.
So
Josh, thank you. We're running out of time here. I want to get to other calls.
Man, I was just going to get into it.
And you're next here. David Hellman is our guest, and you're on the air with David. Go.
I'm just saying that if he uses
sorry.
scientific.
Yep. Well, go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.